It would be very hard to argue that as the 2010s come to a close, any single artist has had a bigger impact on our culture than Kanye West, and that's why I want this to be my very last worst to best of the year. But let's be real, Kanye is also pretty crazy. He's arguably the greatest and most controversial artist of the last 2 decades, which puts me in a weird place if I want to rank his music. He's an erratic maniac and an enigmatic genius with a body of work more alive, personal, and intense than any other rapper in the history of the genre. This is my ranking of his 11 major projects from weakest to strongest. And as someone who loves each and every one of Kanye's projects, this is definitely the most difficult worst to best video I've made yet. But before we get into it, a brief word from our sponsor. Kanye Worst to Best is brought to you by Skillshare. Click the link below to get 2 months of free tutorials on almost any creative, business, or tech subject you can think of. Coming in at 11th place, Cruel Summer is basically the only Kanye album you could possibly maybe consider bad. Sure, it's not even technically a Kanye album, but he put his name all over the project and contributed to a majority of the songs. And it just hasn't aged well. They leaned way too hard on flexing as a songwriting technique, and the production is pretty tacky. I just don't see this album being remembered as an important piece of Kanye's catalog, when albums like Watch the Throne, released just 1 year earlier, are such better examples of Kanye's ability to collaborate and have fun at the same time. All the same, songs like Mercy, New God Flow, and Don't Like are very nostalgic for me, and I consider them classics of their era in hip-hop. Coming in at 10th place, it doesn't make me happy to rank Kanye's latest album at the bottom of this list. Instinctually, my desire is for artists to grow as people throughout their careers, continuously improving their craft with each passing release. But that just wasn't the case with Ye. It came out after Kanye spent a period of around 1 year publicly advocating for the Trump administration and their policies, a position widely seen as ill-informed and childish. Many longtime Kanye listeners found themselves unable to relate to or even respect the vulnerability that Kanye uncovered on Ye, given his actions throughout the year leading up to the album's release. And even besides all of that, Ye just wasn't really good. It was only 23 minutes long, and despite its short running time, Kanye managed to waste a significant amount of the album with unmemorable throwaway tracks like All Mine and No Mistakes. That being said, the songs I Thought About Killing You and Ghost Town are career highlights for Kanye. Overall, I think Ye will go down as a late career misstep for Kanye, an overly obvious yet somehow completely tone-deaf look into the mind of a man who potentially never even had it together in the first place. Again, at 9th place, it sucks to be working backwards here. But The Life of Pablo, I'll admit, is an extremely inconsistent album. It listens like a combination of the late 2010s trap sound and the industrial sound featured on Yeezus, and unfortunately, that combination of sounds ended up sounding pretty messy. Some of it is boring, some of it is grating, some of it is revelatory and spiritual to a degree Kanye had never reached in his career before. Songs like Ultralight Beam, Father Stretch My Hands, Real Friends, Wolves, and St. Pablo are amazing tracks that I think perfectly portray the inner and outer struggles that Kanye experienced as he matured over the last couple of years, starting a family and taking a backseat in the music industry as his very own protégés began to eclipse him in popularity. Watch the Throne might be Kanye's most fun album. He and Jay-Z came together to create a wildly indulgent celebration of their accomplishments, and it went pretty well. The songs were catchy, topical, and powerful. From uplifting anthems like No Church in the Wild to amazing sample flips like the ones on Otis and Who Gon' Stop Me, the album was just an all-around good time, and I think it still sounds great today. Sure, it's not a conceptual masterpiece like the rest of Kanye's work, but he and Jay have such a great chemistry it sounded like a casual joint mixtape between two of the greatest rappers to ever live. Youthful fun on a presidential budget. The College Dropout is, for all intents and purposes, a masterpiece. Kanye burst onto the scene, brimming with a loud personality, catchy melodies, and a lot to say. Unfortunately, I just don't see this album as quite as good as the other records he dropped during the Bear era. It's a little unfocused and light on actual content. That being said, it's unbelievably genuine, and listening to it in 2019 brings back nostalgic feelings unlike almost any other Kanye project. It's a little unfocused and light on actual content. That being said, it's unbelievably genuine, and listening to it in 2019 brings back nostalgic feelings unlike any other Kanye project. The College Dropout is an excellent callback to an amazing bygone era in pop culture. It's the album that started it all for Kanye. He discusses the struggle of the common man in a way that makes it somehow obvious he would eventually become the most beloved rapper of all time. The College Dropout stands in stark contrast to the darkness and struggle that Kanye would eventually touch on with his music in the 2010s. It's optimistic and innocent, sure, but a classic all the same. At 6th place, Yeezus is Kanye's hazy fever dream. It marked the first time Kanye wasn't laser focused on some grandiose concept or idea. The album is raw, aggressive, and passionate. Many people immediately called it a classic, while others thought it was pretty trash. What people didn't realize at first, though, was that Yeezus wasn't really all that different from Kanye's previous work. It was his third album in a row that was all about inner conflict and the restlessness of his artistry. After 808s and Dark Twisted Fantasy, it was becoming a trend that Kanye was dissatisfied with mainstream approval, while also reveling in it. It's a dark, distorted industrial masterpiece in which Kanye slowly gives in to his desires and vices, and it's the last of its kind. Kanye's first child was born the same week as the release of Yeezus, and ever since then he's slowly moved away from this type of hedonistic art, focusing more on spirituality, family, and his place in the world. At 5th place, 808s and Heartbreak is a very, very good album. It's easily one of Kanye's most influential. It paved the way for a new era of hip-hop with its dark, painful songwriting and beats. The album also marked a turning point in Kanye's career as he abandoned the teddy bear imagery and easy-listening R&B style. 808s features not one explicit song, as Kanye focused heavily on creating a singer-songwriter atmosphere on the project. And it wasn't just for style points. His mother had just died and he had ended a long-term relationship. It was the darkest moment in his career so far, and 808s reflects that. In the years following the album, Kanye's reputation slowly shifted away from wholesome R&B inspired rapper, and he would never get that reputation back. 808s is a cold, heartbroken look at a man who had his spirit crushed by the premature death of his mother. It's not easy listening, and it changed Kanye forever. Kids See Ghosts is what Ye could have been. The album is short and to the point. It doesn't waste time. It shows Kid Cudi and Kanye navigating their trauma and pain together, slowly finding self-acceptance and inner peace over the course of the record. The instrumentals on Kids See Ghosts are also quite good, presenting a mix of rock and hip-hop that sounds fresh and interesting the whole way through. For some reason, the chemistry of Cudi and Kanye cancels out their individual craziness, and they were able to create an absolute masterpiece together. They face their issues head-on and find sanctuary together in their faith. Kanye's fantastic verse on Cudi Montage makes it one of the most socially conscious songs he's ever made. He describes the cycle of violence in America and asks for salvation from God. The album as a whole is an emotional journey that most artists couldn't create in an hour and a half, and it's only 23 minutes long. Cudi and Kanye's singing sounds amazing. Their lyricism is back to highs they hadn't reached in almost a decade. Kids See Ghosts is a future classic. At number 3, Late Registration presents a version of Kanye that I'll never know. I wasn't even 6 years old when it came out, but I love it anyway. The melodies are more memorable than anything else Kanye did before or after. The beats are larger than life, and Kanye's persona was both elevated and true to his roots. The music is full of emotion. It goes hard, it's genuine. Songs like Roses, Heard Him Say, Hey Mama, there's not much music I've ever heard more honest than that. Late Registration shows a side of Kanye that disappeared into the void long ago. It's beautiful music that'll go down in history as one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. A fact that now, as Kanye grows older and crazier, is both happy and sad. At second place, what can I really say about Dark Twisted Fantasy that hasn't been said already? It's a massive album. It ushered in and defined the entirety of the last decade in music. It features Kanye pulling out every trick he can possibly think of, in an album with huge instrumentals, a large cast of characters, and elaborate arrangements. But it's not perfect. It's Kanye's vision of what perfection should be. It's powerful, yes, but it's still a flawed work of art. But all the same, Kanye changed music forever with this album. He introduced rap to indie heads and college students around the world. It was his manifesto. It was everything he wanted everyone to know about him and his psyche. It's a decree from the king of pop culture. Even the president of the United States was calling Kanye names back then. What was he supposed to do but aim for timeless? Dark Twisted Fantasy is Kanye's Sgt. Pepper's. It's his dark side of the moon. It's rumors. It's his rumors, his pink moon, his OK computer. It's a manifesto of the world through his eyes, but it's not his best work. At first place, Graduation isn't very good compared to a lot of the albums on this list, but I love it more than all of them, and I think you should too. It's the last thing Kanye would ever make before his world was turned upside down and he was totally consumed by undiagnosed mental illness. As a result, Graduation is a beautiful, innocent look into Kanye's mind. It's light. It moves with a sense of optimism and accomplishment, unmarred by the events that would eventually bring Kanye to his knees. Looking back on Graduation is like looking at the calm before the storm. It's a beautiful moment in time that I think, in the end, is honestly more powerful than anything he would make after it. Off the simple fact that Graduation carries a sense of freedom. No baggage. Just Kanye's hopes and dreams. When we look back on Kanye in 100 years, I think Graduation will be remembered as one of the most important moments of Kanye's artistic career. So that was Kanye's worst to best. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for some very special videos coming to celebrate the end of this wonderful, fascinating decade in music. This has been Volksgeist. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. While we wait to see if Kanye will ever drop Jesus is King, I recommend picking up a few new skills on Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with over 25,000 classes in design, music production, and more. You can learn skills that will improve your opportunities and help you do the work you love. Whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even your career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving in 2019. I can personally recommend young gurus learn how to master songs from home class, though they have classes for almost every aspect of hip-hop production and songwriting. And best of all, it's super affordable. Skillshare's premium membership gives you unlimited access to classes for under $10 a month if you sign up for an annual membership. So join the millions of Skillshare students today with a special offer just for my viewers. Click the link in the description and get 2 months of unlimited access for free.